Welcome to The Knowledge, the show that brings you all the key facts about issues directly affecting young people. We're still talking to you about fair trade this week, but we've been over to the Fairtrade Foundation to speak to their head of communications and find out what exactly goes on in that organisation and what they do to promote an issue that affects everybody's lives in one way or the other. We're here with Barbara Crowther, who's the head of communications for the Fairtrade Foundation. Barbara, thanks very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
First off, can you actually tell us a little about the work that you do here at the Fairtrade Foundation and how long you've been doing it for?
Okay, well, the Fairtrade Foundation, first of all, we're the independent charity that when you see the Fairtrade mark on a product, you know that we and our international organisations have gone and checked to make sure that the farmers in the developing world have received a fair price and that they're able to invest in improving their communities for the future. And we also check the companies at this end to make sure they use that label, they put it on the right product. So that's what we do.
What can we, the people on the ground, really be doing to help the fair trade situation?
Well, I mean, it's an absolute scandal, I think, that in 2009 there are still 2 billion people in the world who are working for a living but still only earning less than $2 a day. Now, we in the fair trade movement, we want to try and change that. So we do that through a number of ways. Firstly, we certify the products to make sure that farmers are able to earn enough for today and invest in a better life for tomorrow. And so people can go out any day of the week and just choose those products and know that you're making a really big difference, and you can find out all the ways that you're making a difference on fairtrade.org.uk as well. So that's the first most important thing. Secondly is just by talking about it with our friends, with our family, when we're at school or work or wherever we are at college. You know, I think it's just talking about it, discussing the issues. And we don't think that just shopping for a better world is the only thing we should be doing. We should also be lobbying our governments. And we can say, actually, I've done my bit. I've chosen the products that are going to give a better deal to people in the developing world. Now I want you, government, to play your part and to make sure international trade rules are also fair.
How do we tell a product's fair trade? Is it simply a case of looking for the label, or is there any other signs to go for?
Do look for the label, and so there's you'll find it on a whole range of things, from cotton t-shirts to bananas, tea, coffee, lots of other types of fruit and juices and wines. We've just launched olive oil from Palestine, so you can look for that label on all of those products.
So, I walk into my local supermarket, I buy a jar of coffee with your logo on.
Yes.
Of the money that I pay for that jar of coffee, how much goes to the coffee growers out in the developing world?
Well, the way that fair trade works is that when the coffee growers are selling their beans on to the people who are buying them to put them into products here, it's at that price that we set. It's at that point that we set at the price back to the farmers. And so we work out what the cost of sustainable production is. So how much does it cost them to grow it? How much do they need to feed their families and to send their children to school? And so we try and get some agreement internationally on what that minimum price should be. And that's just a minimum, and companies can pay anything above that, they just can't pay anything below it. And then in addition, those producer organisations, they get what we call a fair trade premium, and that's for the farmers' organisation as a whole to invest in improving life in their community. So people use that to to improve their schools, put clean water in, put electricity into villages that have never had it, all sorts of things. But it's theirs to use and it's theirs to decide how to use it. Simply pay a fair price for the cotton, and then the farmers can tackle poverty for themselves.
You're giving them more power simply by investing.
It's giving them more power. It's exactly. It's about giving. It's about justice. It's not just about charity. You know, it's actually saying, you know, don't buy my harvest cheap and then offer me charity. Just pay me a fair price for the things I grow for you and that I want to sell to you. That's what fair trade is really all about.
Some of the skeptics out there might say that without more involvement at national and international government levels, not a lot's going to change. What's your answer to that?
I think we need to do both. I think, you know, at the moment there's international trade negotiations going on, and, you know, developing countries are not really getting much of a voice in a lot of those discussions, or the things they're asking for, they're not getting what they're asking for in those discussions. So we've got to keep pushing our government on those things. So we've got to make sure that poor countries can, first of all, that they can protect their own farmers and their own industries, so that, you know, for example, that they don't end up with lots of cheap rice grown in the US, or cheap cotton, or tomatoes from Italy just dumped into their markets, completely undercutting local farmers. So we need to lobby on that, and we do that, and we support that in the Fairtrade Foundation. Whilst the politicians are kind of trying to get on and trying to kind of work their way through those negotiations, I think going and choosing products that carry the fair trade mark is another way that we can just bring about change, you know, on a more direct basis. So let's do both. Let's use our consumer power, but also let's make sure the politicians are hearing what we want in world trade.
Okay, great. Barbara, thanks very much for talking to us.
Thank you.
So, there's a whole range of ways to get not only yourself involved, but other people as well. Check out what's going on at fairtrade.org.uk, and then once you've done that, let us know what you did by dropping us a line at catch21.co.uk. Make an effort not just this fortnight, but every time you get the opportunity.